So previously I made a short video just playing some online poker, not very well. From now on I'm going to make videos. I'm limited to videos of 15 minutes, so I'm going to make videos of a bit of study as a video, and then following that a poker session, and then following that maybe a review of some lands in the poker section with solver. So at the moment I'm reading this book, Applications No Limit Holdem, by Matthew Chanda, and I'm on page 91. I'm not sure how much I want to show this, just because I feel like it's a little bit like stealing their stuff to be showing off, but I'm gonna work through this chapter with a little bit of solver stuff, and just kind of talk about the spots in this chapter that I noticed. Yeah, the section I'm on is post flop bet sizing. So I thought it was interesting on page 91. He mentions that a bet sizing maximizes the expected value of the better's hand. I'm not sure. I'd love somebody in the comments came through and explained why it's not maximizing the expected value of the better's range. Because obviously there's some hands where you're going to bet a different sizing for a different EV, but it's better to just clump it into a range to protect something else. Yeah, this is handy. The final pot size is starting pot times growth rate, chance street remaining. Another note, I'm talking between small bets and large bets. Small bets are going to minimize the effectiveness of check raises. That's probably later on, and larger bets are going to force people to defend less hands, so it'll allow people to fold out trash, and then because of that we're going to want to bluff less with smaller bets, or at least smaller bets require less bluffs, because we're incentivizing a call, but also the smaller bets feel better against check raise. Yeah, and then calculating minimum defense frequency. So then that's a summary there. Betting equal fractions of the pot on all three streets in order to get all the money in. We know that formula is the pot times the growth rate to the power of the number of streets to find the fraction of pot that we need for that. Small bets are effective against a polarized range. Yeah, a lot of the point of small bets is charging draws, I guess. Oh, and he talks about the descending bets sizing structure. I mean, this is something maybe we'll implement later with hands like top pair on a draw heavy board. Maybe doing something like betting 2/3 pot on flop, sizing down to half pot on the turn, and then a third pot on the river if the flush got there, or if a strike got there and we're worried. Okay, next section that I read, part 4, facing a flop bet in position. The minimum defense frequency for a half pot size bet is 66%. So like, if we defend less than 66 or 67%, then they just make money out of the folds. Yeah, what else is in that chapter? So on that, on the flop, obviously there's a quick note on the difference between calling pre-flop and calling on the flop. Calling pre-flop, we still have the chance at the flop to change our hand in a really dynamic way, which is why we can call raises with things like pocket deuces, because we've got 3 cards to see if we hit a set. That's not the same on the turn, and that's going to affect our strategy pretty significantly online in 5 cent, 10 cent. In 5 cent, 10 cent online, the player pool is so weak that we can kind of excusably call super wide and see if we hit something, because they pay off quite a lot, unless I've got a particular table note. But that's only pre-flop, and then on the flop, the game is not dynamic enough to start calling off wide. yeah, if we want to calculate the minimum defense frequency, it's 1 minus the bet size over the pot plus bet size. And then yeah, so on board textures where the villain, whereas like his worst hands are likely to hit draws, so his bluffs are going to hit a lot more draws. We're going to have to defend more aggressively, so we're going to have to raise more. So I thought I'd show this on the solver. If we call and the board comes down pretty dull, not dull, but like it's not hyper wet. Okay, and we're facing an out of position donk. Let's say one sec. Okay, so here's small blind, bet small pretty consistently. So we're facing this bet, but a lot of his draws won't realize. So like, let's say he's betting 7-8 of hearts. He's betting 7-8 pretty consistently, but if he's betting 7-8 hearts or 7-8, that hand isn't going to realize its equity on the turn. So it's a much easier fold to a check raise. Sorry, we don't need to check raise as much. Whereas if it realizes its equity on the turn, we need to check raise it more. So the check or not even the check raising range in this case, but the raising range here is 14%, and we're folding 22% to a third pot size bet with the solver. So we can calculate if that's correct. So that's 33. So 33 over 133, it's like 25%. So the minimum defense frequency is like 25%. What am I thinking about it? It's 25%. Minimum defense frequency is 25%. So we're defending a little bit more than 25%. So that bet is not purely profitable. And we're raising about 15% of the time. But let's see what our check raising percent is if we have a board like 10, board like 10, 8, 7. So this is a more wet board. They bet 2, and we're up on our raising range, only marginally. We only marginally increase our raising range. Well, last time it was almost 16%, and now it's closer to 17%. So we slightly increase our raising range, but we also fold more. I guess we fold more because why do we fold more? Maybe because he realizes more equity on the turn when we call. So some hands that used to call no longer need to call because he's going to realize more equity, and he's betting less on this board. Still, he's betting a very polarized range though. Okay, so that's that chapter. I'm not really lecturing it so much as just going through my own study beforehand and trying to visualize it with the solver, which I think is a little bit helpful, although I'm still confused in a lot of these topics myself. Interesting, he's betting bet 50% pot more here, I think, than he was betting it with the dry board. Oh no, sorry. Okay, well, I've completely changed the board textures. Um, yeah, okay. I'm gonna move on to study to playing a little bit now. But sorry, that's the summary to some extent of, or at least my study, to some extent of. Jeez, I'm really looking this up. Of the sections between about page 104 and 90. So post flop bet sizing and facing, or like your calling ranges for a bet, and then the next section is on your check raising ranges and how often your check raises need to be correct. I really like this book so far, and then GTO Wizard is super helpful also.